Kayfa bir Uygur oygan uygun yeter. Sende mal yok emdi kesse can keter. Bu ölümdün özüngni kutmuzmusan? Ah senin halın xatar. Bu ölümdün özüngni kutmuzmusan? Ah senin halın xatar. Benim ucansız ah okşaydu tenin. Şuna yok mu anti ölümdün vemin? Sırsın kömürlemayla yatsen, oylanmay ölmek kimu sen çup edin. Sırsın kömürlemayla yatsen, oylanmay ölmek kimu sen çup edin. Hop dedim beşin kötür oydunla at, yakidun başini kes amini şat. Göz etraf toptan bakmasa, ölürsen armandı bir gün laylar. Oygan, Uygur'um oygan, Uygur'um oygan, Uygur'um oygan, Uygur'um oygan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, welcome to another special episode of Talk is Turkestan. I have with me my dear brother Salman Bad from Islam 21C. And as I mentioned in the ad, we'll be talking about sort of the aftermath and summarizing what's been happening or what has happened with the Uyghur Tribunal tonight or for the past few days.
Assalamu alaikum tula.
Brothers and sisters, if you guys don't know what the Uyghur Tribunal is, if you're watching this from Facebook or on YouTube, all the links to what the Uyghur Tribunal is, it's 4-day sessions. They are all there. Go and check them out. It has turned into, and I'm sure Brother Salman will enlighten us here, it's basically a great resource, evidence-based resource here. And it's all the evidence that has come about, not just over the past 4 or 5 years, but over the 72-year occupation of Chinese-occupied Turkestan. All the evidence is there, and it's gone through international lawyers through a fine-tooth comb. Brother Salman, you were there over the last few days. What did you see? What did you feel? How did proceedings go about?
It was quite harrowing, to be honest. I mean, for the first day, I just tuned in on the live stream, and we were reporting it. And on Saturday, I went along, and I got to meet some of the, the witnesses and the people, senior Uyghur kind of representatives. And it was quite tough to, listen to when we were doing kind of live tweets and stuff and updates on Islam 21C. Brothers were saying, be careful of your own mental health as well, because there's only so much you can actually absorb of that kind of traumatic experience of someone telling you, they've been subhanAllah, gang raped or, their children snatched away from them. And just it's very important to, at the same time, hear the people's personal accounts, It's very sad to sometimes just kind of turn them into statistics. This many millions in concentration camps, or this many tortured, killed, and so forth. But when somebody's telling you this is what I went through, that's something we all need to. We all have a duty to boost that person's voice, because the Chinese state has tried to silence them violently. And it's an obligation we all share, I think, to try and increase the volume of that person's, statement and their voice, pretty much. I was also really impressed with the level of and the quality of research that the academics had done, and were basically being grilled by the legal experts. That there's a lot of research that has gone into it, peer-reviewed research, kind of thorough, robust research, detailing some of the crimes against humanity, some of the crimes of the Chinese Communist Party, and it was good to see all this stuff in a concentrated place. Now we have to kind of go through the recordings again with a fine-tooth comb, go through the submissions, the reports and stuff. And there's another, set of hearings in September. We have to go through that all and really lift the important kind of points and share that with as many people as possible. This is something that hasn't received that much attention over the years, but anyone watching here, we have the ability to actually make it so loud that it's hard to ignore. It's too loud to ignore, basically, by the mainstream press and people who are, I think Sir Geoffrey Nice, he put it in an interesting wording. He said some people, he was talking about governments, they'd rather not do an inquiry of their own like this out of fear of what to do when they find out the truth, basically. They don't want to deal with the consequences of this, these facts. But it's important nonetheless, or even more important, why we need to actually resist that that sentiment, that feeling, that kind of just ignore it and I won't have to deal with the consequences. You can't do that really in today's day and age. We have to make it as loud as possible that it can't be ignored any longer.
A lot of people were asking me, what's the point of such a hearing? It's not linked to any government or anything. Well, that's the beauty of this. It's almost the closest thing to an independent investigation. Now that all the facts are there, all the evidence has been driven, now governments can use this, and even Uyghur organizations can use this and go, hold on, you want to deal. Let's just say they're going up to a company. Well, you're going to have trade deals with China now. You're going to make a deal. Well, you're dealing with someone who commits genocide, and I found that, and we'll see. Hopefully, we'll see those countries that were they weren't quite sure whether to label what was happening as genocide. Now it's clear cut.
Yeah.
The decision is clear. They've got no excuse. And this is why China, all over the media, they were attacking the president of the World Uyghur Congress, locking his brother up, giving him life sentences. I'm not sure if you saw this, but they had his whole family basically give testimony, renouncing him. He's not our family. He's a terrorist. He's a separatist. And so China was really, part of my French, butthurt about this, and it was all over Chinese media. If you simply type in CCTV, CGTN, Uyghur Tribunal, and they were just attacking it fiercely, but not attacking the actual program, but demonizing. What they do is they don't actually attack the action, they attack the people and demonize them, and in a very bad light. And I'm sure this will continue. What do you hope will happen in the near future? Do you see countries acting on this, or companies acting on it, or even individuals, or what's your hope for this?
I mean, we asked one of the vice chair of the tribunal the same question. We're like, what's going to come out of this? Because a lot of people, like you said, they're wondering, well, it's not connected to a government, then what power does it have? And like you said, if it was, it's quite good that it's not connected to a government, because if it were, then someone would say, oh, it's just that government and there's propaganda against China or whatever. This is a purely neutral, independent inquiry, and those people, the officials, the chairs and so forth, they were very careful not to give their own opinions or anything. They even they weren't saying we're going to say anything about genocide or anything, or not yet, because they're looking at all the evidence first. And after September's hearing, they're going to, analyze and issue their judgment and verdict. And then it's for the governments, then they can have this quality piece of research that is independent, free from any state or government. They even didn't pay them. They weren't even paid, these people. They're like retired, kind of people who've had their careers already, very high senior people in the legal field, in international law and humanity. Sir Geoffrey Nice, for example, QC, he was a lead prosecutor in the Bosnian genocide tribunals, and the against Slobodan Milosevic. So these are people with a track record, and it's important to dwell on that for a minute, because these are people who can't be bought. They're people who really, a bit like the House of Lords. The idea behind the House of Lords is the people who've already had their careers. They're not going to be lured or enticed into, getting a promotion here or there. They're the people with, their careers that are behind them. They're genuinely there to, he was saying, a truth finding mission. This is in order to just find out the truth, just find out the facts about this thing. Now, these facts, this independently verified truth, can then, beyond any a reasonable doubt, this was their bar, which is, a standard under all legal regimes, pretty much. Yeah. um, they're establishing the facts of what's happening, what happened, beyond any reasonable doubt, of what the Chinese state has been up to against the Uyghurs and Kazakhs and other minorities, so that now prosecutors, governments around the world, companies, they can have, or they can be shown, this very independently verified information. Because now, as you've seen online, China's been, it's got loads of trolls that it just pays with fake names, fake accounts, just to spread Chinese propaganda, state propaganda. And you can't do that when there's a completely neutral and independent review, independent tribunal that's going on. Because the Chinese state were themselves invited to this, as you know, several times, and they're scared to show up, pretty much, because and they've been attacking it again, constantly, officially, and through their kind of trolls and internet trolls and that kind of stuff. So that shows that they're actually scared. They're on the back foot here. And this, in and of itself, just even if that was the purpose of it, that's very important as well, to show some level of the world, to show some level of resistance, that the governments may be, prioritizing money or trade or whatever, but the people, the independent people within these governments, within these states rather, not affiliated to the governments, they've got their eye on you, right? And this is their desperate reaction to kind of try and discredit them or to smear lies against them or whatever, is a sign to that they're actually scared. Now, even if that was just the just to scare them, to wake them up that people are watching you, that's a good enough intention. But it goes further, that this high quality tribunal report, this independent truth finding mission, basically, will be able to be used by governments, by parliaments, by companies, as I said, to actually then put on further pressure and sanctions and divestment, boycott, and so forth, movements, as well as us, general public, and people in the public eye.
There was an article published by, I'm not sure if it was one or two, there was an article published on what was happening with the Uyghur Tribunal. What sort of a reaction have you gotten by the Muslim community, whether it be in the UK or anywhere else? Because there has been some new information that's come to light. During the last day, I believe it was yesterday, they actually had a former Chinese police officer who worked in the camps for 2 years, and he had witnessed the things that we have been talking about, but especially he confirmed some of the torture that the guards did on the genitalia of specifically the men, electrocuting them. So what has been the reaction by Muslim communities now? This sort of narrative, oh, it's a Western game, how can we trust the West? And, what sort of reaction did you get from them?
Well, there's always going to be some people with a vested interest. Yeah, maybe they're doing business with China already, or they have some kind of a fear. But the vast majority I've seen are people who have some empathy and prioritize the suffering of brothers and sisters over these kind of their hatred of the West or whatever. Just because the West, I mean, the Western powers and establishments should be blamed, obviously, for creating so much distrust against the whole world. Pretty much generally the whole world, outside of a few countries, distrust Western regimes and so forth. and that they have to bear the blame for that, the majority to blame for that. But even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? So just because the Trump or some Western leader or Western kind of media establishment is against China, it doesn't mean everything they're saying is false. That's why a tribunal like this, looking at evidence from individuals and witnesses and peer-reviewed academic research, is so important. And if somebody denies that, they might as well deny everything they come across. They might as well deny China even exists. They might, it's more rational for them to believe that China itself doesn't exist. It's just some conspiracy that everyone's been pointing at, rather than the hundreds of people from various different countries, the Uyghur diaspora, 500, they said, I think 500,000 probably across the world, over decades, talking about the treatment that they've been receiving, and in the last few years it being ramped up to this frankly genocidal trajectory. So how do you know something, right? This conspiracy kind of culture is a virus, and I think that itself is a conspiracy, right? That some people who benefit from what's going on, they fill people's heads with ridiculous conspiracies, so that they're just busy thinking, is the world flat, or do vaccines contain microchips or whatever, rather than actually holding their feet to the fire and challenging people who benefit from the status quo. So how do you know something? Look, if there's so many people from so many various types of the world, um, all coming with the similar or corroborating testimonies, right, about something which it's unreasonable for us to think that such a mass transmission of people were colluding on the same lie or happened to make the same mistake coincidentally at the same time, then it's something that you believe. That's trusted testimony. This is in Islamic terminology, for example, this is a source of a genuine source of knowledge, right? That you're held to account if you reject for no good reason, right? It's called tawatur, or mass transmission, or khabru sadiq, trusted testimony of someone. These types of things. So most things that we claim we know are, from this type of you can say source of knowledge. Now, most of the things that, if not everything that has been put before the judges and the chairs of the tribunal and so forth, they have been something that would normally satisfy somebody's bar for knowing their threshold, for believing something and being warranted, being justified in believing something. So disbelieving in that, and rejecting that, is something that Muslims should be very scared of doing, because that would come under effectively giving leeway or respite to for oppressors to carry on their oppression, just because you don't feel like dealing with the consequences of that knowledge, but just because there's a cool kind of interesting or curious conspiracy theory that tickles your fancy. No, these are people's lives on the line, and people's families are suffering. And it's very important that we do our part to make this too loud to ignore.
In doing our part, you as a journalist have witnessed, especially when it comes to, say, with Palestine and Israel, and especially with China, you see the war is online. The war is on the media. I'm not sure how much you followed it, but have you been following Chinese media or them CCP shilling YouTubers and how they present it, and how do we pick out?
No.
Obviously,
I mean, I've just seen like trolls and stuff, and when I Google things, look at Google Trends and Google News and stuff, I see Chinese state media at least being quoted by other platforms like Guardian or whoever, they have to add that line that, and by the way, the Chinese media is, completely says distance itself from this. But ask yourself this question: anyone doubting this kind of stuff, what would things look like if all those people claiming that they're being tortured and they had to flee their countries? What would things look like if they were telling the truth? It would look exactly the same. Obviously, a genocidal maniac power would not just openly say, yeah, we believe in everything these people are saying. They would try to, discredit them and call them lies and so forth. So you have to really take a step back and think critically. Who do you believe here? People who in power, who benefit from the continuation of their policies, or do we believe people who have no rational reason to claim that they've been through humiliating and degrading treatment? That's not a normal human behavior, right? Even if you are being paid, or somebody's pulling your strings or whatever, why would you humiliate yourself? And so many people humiliate or claim they've been humiliated, or for a woman, for example, grandmothers to claim they've been gang raped, subhanallah. So why would they even do that? There's plenty of ways to make money, right? You could do anything. It's silly, and they're not like people driving flashy cars or anything. They've been completely enriched beyond their wildest dreams. The people with humble means, communities living amongst us, right, who are known. They have shops, restaurants. They have normal jobs and stuff, and they're coming out and they're claiming this is what's been happening to them. So we have to just think a bit critically, and um, it's very important that we recognize what the trajectory and the change in policy that some of the academics and the witnesses were mentioning was one from has always been, especially the academics, right? The sources they're relying on are the Chinese Communist Party's own policy documents, yeah, and they're using euphemistic language like cultural kind of changing their culture, birth, family planning, and so forth. These things are kind of morally abhorrent and happen to be illegal and international law anyway. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to find that if you force someone not to have kids, right, that this is somehow within their normal kind of rights as a human being. Even if what they were saying was taken at face value, the fact that they're treating the Uyghurs and the Kazakhs different to the Han Chinese, for example, the fact that they're imposing and they're openly advertising Han Chinese to come and replace these people. Where are they going if you're advertising you're going to give them their house, and you're gonna give them their jobs and even their wives and subhanAllah, their families, right? Where are these people going to go? So the academics, especially, I think, on, for example, the one of the last witnesses, if not the last witness, I forgot his name, on Monday, he was talking about, look, I'm using the Chinese state's policies itself, quoting the ministers giving speeches in public and stuff, and you can easily track, okay, when they say um, uh, family planning, kind of Ministry of Family Planning or whatever, you can see a link between that and forced abortions, forced sterilization operations, right? And you can see that from the testimony of people and from the publicly available official state birth rates, for example. As you know, the birth rates have dropped drastically. They didn't just change their desire overnight to have fewer kids. No, that was something imposed on them, which happens to be illegal anyway. So these are things that so this trajectory, you can see that they've historically always wanted to hold down the Uyghurs or oppress them, or try and replace, or try and kind of take their Muslimness out of them, which is very similar to so many states across the world who have problematized Muslimness throughout the war on terror. Right, Western world has used this on the Muslims in the West, in the UK and America and so forth, as guinea pigs, as lab rats, and exported it around the world now to, Middle East dictators, and the Chinese state itself has been learning from this. But they just went on in the last few years, they said they took a turn to be a bit more active, right? So um, he even used the word prevent, yeah, just like prevent here. He said they moved to a more proactive way to prevent, instead of finding them when they have more than two kids or more than one kid in this many years. They went to a proactive level to prevent them having more kids before the so-called crime takes place. They went proactively to prevent them becoming so-called radical terrorism and extremism. All these ridiculous terms that have been used to basically describe people just praying, or a woman wearing a headscarf, or a guy growing his beard, or someone saying Assalamu alaikum, or going to the masjid. So they've become, their policy of exterminating the identity of the Uyghurs has just become, on steroids, basically accelerated. But they've always had that policy, and that's been open. That those policies always exist and been public. It's just in the last few years, they've become more vicious and more proactive with that, and entered this whole pre-crime space, which there's a lot of literature on when it was being developed on Muslims in the Western world, such as Prevent in the UK.
Yeah. So the last guest that you talked about was Dr. Adrian Zenz, and we have his interview we did close to a year ago. So you can check that out. And his research was based exactly on that, the falling birth rates. And I don't know if you know this, but there was a period of time. There was one city, I forget the name now, on the eastern side of China, where they had something called the 100 childless days, where women were not allowed to have children for 100. They couldn't give birth for 100 days. So whether they were 7, 8, 9 months on the verge of birth, these babies were killed for 100 days to control the birth rate, because it was one of the highest birth rates in China. Anyways, we can keep going here. I've got a special guest with me. She's not a stranger on Talk is Turkestan. She's been with us before, and she's someone who gave testimony at the Uyghur Tribunal. I know I'm lagging a bit, but I think my voice is still going through. Anyways, let's invite Sister Nur Siman and Brother Salman. I'm sure if you have questions for her, you can ask away as well. Let's invite the sister. Assalamu alaikum, sister. How are you today?
Alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sister, we've had you on the show before. You gave your testimony at the Uyghur Tribunal. Could you just give us your thoughts? What you saw, like what is the hope for Uyghurs of such a tribunal happening, and what is your hope for your family? And perhaps you can remind our viewers what your family is going through.
Yeah, like when I first heard about the Uyghur tribe, was like shocked, because it's been almost for a year, and we keep trying, and like all the Uyghurs are really frustrated, because we cannot go to the UN, because the United Nations becomes the backyard of China, and even they saw so many evidence, and they just choose to keep silent. So everyone is very frustrated, but just because they are our parents, they are our brothers and sisters, so we cannot give up. So we keep fighting, but the situation gets worse, and China keep expanding the camp, and they become very aggressive. But after I hear the tribunal, I felt like, oh my God, there is a place we can actually sue China, because when I live in China, like I feel like the police is not the person can safeguard us, and I even believe the law can protect our rights. So until today, until the tribunal, I never had the feeling that there is a thing can protect our rights. So for me, the Uyghur Tribunal give a lot of hope. And when I think about the results, and of course the result will be that the China is committing genocide because the evidence is really clear. So this evidence can help us. Like when I currently I am living in Turkey, and when I talk to the government officials or any kind of parties, I can say that this court gives us such a result, and you have to push your government to announce what's happening to the Uyghurs is a genocide. And in this way, so I hope, I believe there are many countries will join and announce, recognize the Uyghur genocide. And as a result, there should be a sanctions against the government, and also there should be economic sanctions, and this will save. And after all this happened, then I can see my parents, I can see my brothers and sisters. So this is just a starting point. For me, the Uyghur Tribunal is the first step, but it makes the other step more easier for the Uyghurs.
Could you just remind our viewers what we've just had Brother Sabur Ahmed just join as well. We'll just give him a time to settle in a bit. Could you just remind our viewers the current situation with your family?
Yeah, like after I lost contact with my family members since 18th of June 2017, I can't hear them. And like after like in 2018, I was learned that all of my family members was taken to the camps. Then I keep trying and I keep pressuring the Chinese government. And in 15th of June 2020, I was informed by the Chinese embassy in Turkey that my parents and my brothers are sentenced to long-term prison sentences, such as my father was sentenced 16 years, 11 months, and my mother was sentenced 13 years, and my elder brother sentenced 7 years, and my younger brother sentenced 15 years, 11 months. Like 4 out 6 in my family are in prison, and I don't know where is my niece and nephews. So yeah, until now I even don't know in which prison they are in, and what crime they committed, so-called crime. Like everything is really unclear, unknown, and like I sometimes I scare that what if my parents and the brothers are already died. That's why the Chinese government didn't reply me, because I keep pressuring them all the time, but there is no any news. I keep asking, and until now I didn't get any kind of information that where is my parents and if they are alive or not. No any answer.
So, Sister Nursiman, you talked about forced labor in the camps because I've got this question coming up as to what regions it's happening in. I'm actually okay. I was just gonna have not you answer that. I was gonna give you a while just to sit back. I wanted to have Brother Sabur on. Are you there, Brother Sabur? He just sort of I think he. All right, that's cool. Okay, let's get straight to that question then until we're ready for Brother Sabur. So there was a question by Raisa. She was asking as to what actually. So the question was, what regions was this forced labor happening? Okay, but I'm just gonna have Brother Sabur just hop on for a bit to share his thoughts with us, and then I'll get you back, sister. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, Brother Sabur. You were there. You attended.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yep, go ahead. Yeah, you were there for the Uyghur Tribunal.
So
yeah.
Yeah. So just wanted to say that firstly, welcome to Sister Nur Salman. I'm glad she's with us. Her very brave testimony in the Turkish parliament is something which will go down in history, inshallah. And, her family and, all of the families who are suffering. This is immensely difficult for her and others, and also the testimony she gave during the Uyghur Tribunal. All of this requires a lot of moral courage. So I just wanted to firstly just invite her and welcome her. Other than that, you guys have covered everything quite thoroughly, especially Dr. Salman. He has very good insights. I mean, what the precedent is here in terms of this tribunal. I simply wanted to add one thing, and that one thing that I wanted to add is that the Chinese Communist Party is in such a bad position that it cannot even give replies to the evidences at the tribunal. So they've been invited 4 times, but they've refused participation. Yet they've said that this tribunal is absolutely baseless. It has no backing. It has no legality. It's not important at all. Yet they can't stop talking about it. So it's either one or the other. Either it's important or it's not important. Secondly, they've spent millions of pounds trying to explain what's happening in the Uyghur region as a war against terror or extremism, and they've spent so much money. All they needed to do was turn up at the tribunal and give evidence and show everybody's lying, rather than making these one-sided videos which everybody can see are just pure propaganda. And sisters like Nur Salman and Sister Tursan, Sister Zumrat, Sister Gulbahar, all of these sisters, Roshan, all of these women that are coming forward and testifying for their families, they can't stand up to a bunch of women, right? They can't stand up to anybody. The evidences are so clear. They like to slander the people who have come out of the camps and who are giving testimonies and this type of thing. They try to attack the moral character of these people. But we all know that the Chinese Communist Party is a narcissistic, genocidal regime, and Allah will bring them to their knees. Allah will humiliate them, even though we openly call for a peaceful activism. Allah has His ways, and Allah can do whatever He wills, right? So people are going to be brought to justice. And my reminder for this particular Uyghur tribunal is that this is happening on the court on earth, but in the heavenly court, this thing will be judged as well. So yes, we want justice on this earth, but for the people that have already died without seeing justice, they will get justice in the hereafter. And I pray that Nur Salman's family is all released and she can be with her brothers and with her parents. And it's very sad to see this is happening to our Uyghur brothers and sisters in Chinese-occupied East Turkestan.
Before I have Sister Nur Salman back on, you've been quite active online, calling out the shills on their lies. What has, the stuff, you guys call out, atheists and enemies of Islam that try to, make a mockery of Islam in general, just through your dawah, through the work in your dawah. But what is different when coming to these sorts of, CCP propagandists?
There's no comparison. The reason why is because when we're talking to atheists actually believe what they're saying, right? They believe there is no God. They believe, in many of these things, even though no one really believes there is no God 100%. No atheist would even say that. No proper atheist would say that. They'll all say most likely there's no God. But they would still believe in what they're saying. So they'll say, I'm a liberal, and they'll live according to liberalism. When these shills like Daniel Dumbrell, who's refusing to have a discussion and finding every excuse not to have a discussion, and Karl Zah and all of these pathetic individuals, they love Western liberty. They love the freedoms that the West gives them. They love YouTube. They love Twitter. Yet for the Chinese people, they're denying them these rights. So they're complete and utter hypocrites. And what I wanted to do is simply ask them a question. Do you think Nur Salman is lying? Do you think Roshan is lying? Do you think all of those people all across the world whose families are missing, the people in Turkey, the people in Malaysia, the people in Pakistan, all this Uyghur diaspora all across the world, Do you think they're all lying? Yeah, that their family is missing and oppression is taking place? Do you think it's just one big lie? And if you think it's a lie, my honest advice to you is this: any criminal court which sentences people, it allows visits and it allows people to see their loved ones even if they're on death row. So if you're saying everything you're saying is just, and let's just accept your words at it, then we would ask you, why can't Nur Salman go and see her family? Why can't she see pictures of her parents to see that they're alive? The fact is, you know well that this is all a sham. These people are innocent, and they are innocent in the eyes of Allah, and Allah will bring the Chinese Communist Party to its knees. Allah will humiliate them, Allah will destroy them, Allah will make them feel in this world the pain that they are giving others, and Allah is just. Now we're powerless, right? We're powerless from the perspective that we cannot get them out. But we are very powerful from an activism perspective, because the noise we make really hurts them, which is why our activism, even though it's all online and it's it's all like non-physical, right? It's not like we're trying to tear down the camps physically, but it's rattling the Chinese Communist Party. It is scaring them. It is sending out messages to them that we as Muslims, we as people of La ilaha illallah, we will never ever surrender to the tyrannical forces of Pharaoh, and we will not surrender to the tyrannical forces of Xi Jinping either. We defeated Abu Jahl, we defeated Genghis Khan, we defeated all of these tyrants, and therefore we will also defeat you.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khairan, brother Sabur. I want to bring Sister Nursiman back for a sec, because we had a question talking about, and you covered this quite thoroughly in the tribunal about the forced labor. I guess that's why it was asked. Could you just speak to the forced labor that you experienced and how that system works? And inshallah, I'll also get Dr. Salman to sort of comment on this as well after that.
Yeah, like the girls was forced to work is from my village, and they were taken to the Jiangxi province, where I was study from 2006 to 2008, and that's why I had the chance to visit the factory. And in that period, that was the period that the government starting to take the Uyghur young girls and the boys to the innerland China for work. And this is like after middle school or after high school, if the boys and the girls didn't continue with the university or the high school, and the government tried to convince them to go and work at the factories, and like most of the time they were the government tried so hard to convince them, because I am studying there. That's why the parents sometimes they came to our house and asked what if how is the situation, if they can go or not, and they just try to learn more about innerland China, because for the Uyghurs in my village, like going to Urumqi is like such a normal thing, but working in innerland China with in a Chinese city, it's very strange, because like Uyghurs they never leave their homeland to earn money. Like they willing to travel, but they never say I have to earn money and I have to go to another place to work, because it's not like it's not fit our culture, and that's why they feel so hard to move a different place, because everything is so different. And the point that catch me attention is there is a 4-person taking these girls to the factory, and there was a government official, and there was a lady who's elementary school teacher, and there's 2 young guy, and I don't know what their the job, but they accompanied me and my friend during our visit. Like they took us from the station, and when I visit the production line, and they also with me, and I am suspicious that that two young men is the assistant police officer. Like in every village, there are assistant police officer. They controlling the people, and I was assuming that they are one of them. And like it's strange that there is a government official, there is a teacher, and there is a police when the girls taken to the Jiangxi province to work.
Dr. Salman, I want to have your thoughts on this matter. You know, we're talking about, you know, Muslims that they have to leave their home. They have to go to somewhere foreign. They are surrounded by non-Muslims, and in a way, in an attempt to assimilate them into Chinese society. What is your
Yeah.
take on
So,
that? And is there anything similar going?
yeah. So, Arsalan, just before Salman comes in,
Yeah.
because I need to leave, I just wanted to give a message. At the end of this live stream, Salman is going to be explaining the campaign that we're running as Islam 21C. So this is just for everybody who wants to get involved. That you know, Salman's going to lay out the plan, what exactly we want to do, inshallah. And obviously, the details that we don't want the Chinese Communist Party to know, we won't go over. But it's very important for everyone to understand that we do have things planned, and of course that we are discussing these things with the likes of Sheikh Haytham al-Haddad and you know whatnot. So these are going through the mashayikh, they're going through the thinkers, and also that Uyghur Freedom Organization. That's just something which obviously is quite limited with the university stuff. But the main stuff this summer and all the stuff Salman's going to speak about, we're going to do as Islam 21C. So make sure you stay until the end of the live stream. You see how you can get involved and where you can get updates, inshallah. But from myself, because I need to head off, I wanted to give my salam to Nur Salman and to you guys. Keep up the good work, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan.
Alaikum
salam. Okay, Brother Salman, so I'll get your take on this, and after you could, I don't know if you're going to highlight in this interview or you're going to do it in the next one. Didn't quite sure what happened at the end there.
Yeah, I mean, subhanAllah, I met some representatives of the Uyghur diaspora, and they were mentioning, you know, that some of them, they're so kind of separated out. That some of them are, like in the UK, there's, you know, like a handful of families. I went to like a Uyghur restaurant the other day, mashallah tabarakallah, and they're very, you know, hospitable, mashallah, very welcoming. And yeah, you can see nobody wants to leave their family, their homeland for no reason. You know, even our parents and our of so-called economic migrants, they only left because, you know, some colonial powers that will not be named came and completely destroyed and deindustrialized their societies, you know, and took all the resources and stuff. So nobody wants to leave their very few people want to leave their homeland, their society, their culture, their people, their way of life in some areas, some circumstances, you know. But it's just a testament. 500,000 odd people in the Uyghur diaspora. You know, you have to think, where are they? You know, why are they so spread out across the world? Just to come and open a restaurant somewhere, just to work a normal job like everyone else, away from their family. You know, you have to really think about this. And one of the Uyghur sisters, she said to me that they were looking for fatwas. You know, sisters were asking scholars, Uyghur sisters were asking scholars, is it permissible to kill myself? Is it permissible to commit suicide because I'm being forced to marry a Han Chinese man? There's no marriage, there's not a proper marriage anyway, it's not nikah. So they're being forced to commit zina and live with Han Chinese men because the Chinese state want to replace their lineage and destroy their identity. So why would someone ask this? Why would someone even put that out there? Something that's obviously very hurtful, something harmful, and something that should make us think, as onlookers. Do we want to be? Imagine if a few decades down the line, your grandchildren ask you, "What were you doing when this was happening?" And do you want to be the person who said, "Oh, just kind of messing about with some conspiracy theories. I didn't know," but you actually did know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what you know, what information comes to you with the degree of certainty that He has obligated us to act upon.
Thank you, Dr. Salman. Nursiman, I just want to get your last words, and then I'll let you go. Could you just remind everyone, you've been recently running a campaign for your family. Just remind everyone of that and how they can join and where to follow you, and then I will bid you farewell for tonight.
Excuse me, can you repeat the question, because my internet is just cut off and just reconnected?
Yeah, I was just saying, thank you for joining us, and you're running a social media campaign to shed more light on what's happening with your family. Could you just explain to our followers what that is, how they can reach, and how they can be a part of that social media campaign, and then I'll let you go for the night.
Yeah, me and my sister was started a social media campaign, and just trying to shedding a light to the Uyghur issue, because my family, my parents and my brothers unlawful arrested, not just represent my family, because there are millions of families destroyed by China. So we decided to start it, and I really hope people join us. Like you can, you can to raise awareness. I really hope you can talk about what's happening to the Uyghurs, and share your video with the hashtag of Free Noor's Family, or you can simply write Free Noor's Family hashtag on paper and just share it on your social media. And I will be really appreciate if you spend your time to join us.
Okay, guys, you guys know where to reach her. Use the hashtag Free Noor's Family to shed light on this very important issue. Jazakallah khairan. Have a good night, and until next time, Sister Nursiman, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Brother Salman, Brother Subur touched on some information towards the end there. Could you just shed some light on what you guys are working on at Islam 21C with regards to the Uyghurs?
Yeah, so one of the problems is whenever we talk about the Uyghur issue, or whether it's a khutbah or somebody is giving a lecture, or just sharing a post or something, it's hard to try and channel that into some effective action. So what we've done is we've created a skeleton of a person's kind of journey through 3 stages, motivating them. Whenever you hear about anything to do with the Uyghur issue, we want to create we've got a digital process where someone's going to be motivated with the information that they need to see that their voice actually matters and what they can do. Second stage is knowledge, in terms of actually the details, properly substantiated, evidenced, reference details of what the Uyghurs are suffering. And thirdly, action, right? So motivation, knowledge, and action. And the action is effective action where we can direct people to, so there's going to be an element of tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how to receive tawfiq, masjid campaign, khutbah, what to say to your local masjid, a strategic dua push, dua qunut campaigns, for example. Second element is social media. We're making high quality, robust and properly researched infographics and social media material and videos and so forth for people to share and have their own campaigns on social media in their own time. There's the and boycott lists, for example, information that's very important to identify and put pressure on companies that are benefiting from or working with the oppression of the Uyghurs. And generally how to reach out to our brothers and sisters to give those messages of solidarity and support, because that's very important as well. Another element is universities, the universities campaign that Sabur mentioned with UFO, making what we're calling student shields. Yeah, so students at certain universities standing up and getting resolutions passed, getting motions passed at their union councils to divest and cut relations with Chinese companies that and the Chinese state that are involved in oppression of Uyghurs. There's also a very important date to keep in your diaries, brothers and sisters. The 1st of July. We're aiming for the 1st of July to get as many people as possible to a public demonstration of solidarity with the Uyghur brothers and sisters, and the Kazakhs and all the other minorities, even the non-Muslim minorities that are being oppressed by the Chinese Communist Party. And the 1st of July is very important because it's the centennial, the 100-year anniversary of the Chinese Communist Party, and they've been planning some, fanfare and celebrations for 10 years, I've been told. But we want to use that opportunity to have the biggest mass demonstration of solidarity with the victims of Chinese state terror in history, inshallah, in the UK. We can do it. We want to get people from all over the country to come and join. It's probably going to be on outside the Chinese embassy, but if you sign up to be a volunteer in the campaign and to receive updates, I've created a quick page just now and embedded the form that we've been collecting people's email addresses on to notify them about updates of the campaign. You just go to islamtunisia.com/Uyghurs, islam21c.com/Uyghurs, UYGHURS. And you can just put your name and email address in there, and you'll get notified with details for these milestones, like the protest and when the online campaign goes live and so forth. So yeah, those are the immediate kind of milestones, and there's longer term things that we're helping. We're trying to get involved with other organizations, other campaigns as well, such as the Beijing Olympics, Winter Olympics campaign to what's the word? Cancel to cancel the Beijing Olympics in 2022 on the grounds of these violations of people's human dignity and rights, and other things. This is a long-term campaign. China hasn't gotten to the level of hubris and oppression and impunity overnight. It's been a long time coming. Therefore, this is a long campaign. It's not going to be an overnight thing. We're in it for the long run, inshallah. So if you aren't interested, please do head over to islamtunisia.com/Uyghurs, where you can sign up to be part of this long-term campaign, inshallah. And Arsalan is obviously going to be there with us. He's part of us as well. He's just being humble. But Sabur and all we're going to be joined with Muslim organizations throughout the country and beyond, inshallah, for this united effort to make this united stand, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan for that. Just a reminder to our audience, if you've just joined us on the show, if you want all the information, what happened during the Uyghur Tribunal, first go to the Uyghur Tribunal website, look at what the Uyghur Tribunal is. There's a little description. All the links are in the description below, and the links to the full 4-day event, which is about 45 hours of testimonies and evidence shown to the world. Do you have any last remarks, Brother Salman, before we let everyone go? Yeah, Jazakallah khairan for this stream.
Jazakallah khair for the invitation. Just to, while we do everything that we do, it's very important to remember that our number one aim is so that we have an excuse before Allah, that when Allah asks us, what did we do? When we could have done X, Y, Z, at least we can say, oh Allah, I tried my best. And please keep making dua for our Uyghur brothers and sisters. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala relieve their suffering, give them swift justice in this life before the justice of the next life against the oppressors. And remember that there's no dua between the oppressed and his or her Lord. So be part of their du'as as well when they are making dua for the brothers and sisters who are remembering them, who are trying to help them, who are making dua for them as well.
All right, brothers and sisters, Jazakallah khairan for joining us. Thank you so much, Dr. Salman, for giving us your time and your expertise over the last few days. Brothers and sisters, until next time, before I let you go, I just reminded that tomorrow we're actually going to have someone from the World Uyghur Congress, which sort of is the main, is the one who organized the Uyghur Tribunal. Sister Zumratai Arkin, she'll be joining us 2 p.m. UK time. So make sure you guys watch out for that. Again, brothers and sisters, peace be upon you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ümit üzme aziz halqim, ümit üzme ey ana yurt. Biz atandık bu küreşke, o yıl taştek uyuşur. Allah verse bu nusretni, bizgilerimiz sep bulur.